Well, the UPS man showed up. Well, in this case, the FedEx man showed up and delivered something I've been waiting for about 6 months. This took about 6 months to have manufactured and delivered from Japan, and it has to do with aero, the back of the car. If you guys remember, I picked up that Voltex style swan neck rear wing, and I wanted the option of some different end plates. Hi, my name is Dan Dulac. Welcome back to my channel where I'm building a V10 powered Ultima Evolution convertible. This is episode 29, and if you missed any 28 of the previous episodes, go back to my channel and check those out. I cover from unboxing to cutting, welding, wiring, soldering, the whole 9 yards, so be sure to go check that out. On this episode, we're gonna jump headfirst into the wiring. We're gonna start by mounting the lithium ion battery in somewhat of a unique position in the car, just to save space. Then we're gonna start to wire the PDM, the power distribution module I have from Motec, and then start to bring power to all the various components and accessories in the car in preparation for me to receive the factory ECUs back from the programmer. They're still at the programmer, getting tuned and the immobilizer removed, but I expect those pretty soon, and I want to be ready when those come back for this wiring. Also going to share with you a couple of the aero bits I received in the mail now a couple of weeks ago, and I'm also going to show you where we're at with the custom set of CV axles. I'm working with Drive Shaft Shop to build me a custom set of CV axles for the rear end of this car. It's going to require a little bit of custom work there that they're doing for me, so we'll talk about that too. And the other thing I think I figured out is the air intake tract. In the last episode, ton of great comments and feedback. I was originally thinking of drawing the intake plenum air from behind the rear bumper because I'll have a fair bit of opening back there. But I decided against it. So thank you all for your great guidance and comments. And I think I've finally come up with a solution that I think will work. So I look forward to sharing that with you guys on this episode as well. So without further ado, let's get after it. All right, guys, I'm gonna start attacking this electrical system. And the first thing is the battery mounting. I originally picked up one of these ATX 20 HD anti-gravity batteries. Nice small unit, super light. Literally weighs like 6 pounds, I think. But based on the recommendation of a few other builders, I decided to upgrade to the 30. It has a bit more amp hour for the car. Now you can see the size difference here. It's a fair bit bigger, both in depth and height. The width is pretty much the same. But if you remember, I had this battery back in here. It was gonna go in this footwell area. And then I made a nice little angled cover that would go over here. Something like that. So it was a bit angled, so it was nice for the passenger, a footrest, covers up the battery area. But with this bigger battery, now all my bracketry isn't gonna work. I'd have to take this off, this off. What I'm thinking of doing is making a plate, a mounting plate in this chassis tube area underneath the dashboard, and then mounting it just like that. The beautiful thing with these lithium batteries is you don't have to mount them upright. You can mount them pretty much anywhere. So it won't be too convenient to replace, but just crawl underneath, I guess, and I'll just make it so it's easily removable. That gets it up out of the way. There's plenty of room under the dash for this in this location. And then it gives the passenger plenty of leg room. And I've already got all the main power wiring set up. So in my new mounting location, if I were to do it right there, which I think that's what I'm gonna do, all my cabling will still reach. Now here's another idea I just had, is this is my PDM 30 from Motec. And what I'm thinking now is with this vacant spot where I no longer have the battery, I can mount this PDM 30 up in this area. Nice short run for the main power supply there, and it's easily accessible. And then with this in place, then I'll still use the cover plate and just cover up all the electronics, and then it makes it more accessible in the footwell, kind of like in a traditional road car where you see fuse panels and so forth in the footwell area. I think that'll be a good use. Still plenty of leg room and a nice footrest for the passenger as well. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to create a mounting plate for this ATX 30. We'll get that mounted in, and then we can start routing all the wiring. Well, I thought better of it using that nylon tie-down strap. I was worried it would come loose, vibration over time, so I said, screw it. I'll just make up a proper aluminum bracket. So I did that here. I had to rig up some blind screws from the inside since I can't get access to it. I used a little JB weld on the heads on the inside to secure them so they can be screwed on blind. That worked out. So it's all secure now. It's not going anywhere. That thing is locked down. And like I said, it comes out as a whole assembly, so the bracket and all. 4 screws, 1 here, under here, 2 up there, and then that whole assembly drops out from underneath on the inside. Again, remember when this body is on, there'll be no way to access it from the top side. So finally, after screwing around with this for a few hours, I think I finally got it. Well, the UPS man showed up, well, in this case, the FedEx man showed up and delivered something I've been waiting for about 6 months. End plates. So I picked up, these are called the Type B end plates. They're a little bit smaller, a little more sleek. I've seen a couple of Aventadors actually with these style end plates, and I really like the look. I picked these up, took them, again, 6 months to manufacture and ship them to me. They just showed up today. So I am excited to see what these things look like. All right, here we go. Oh, yes. Swing! Look at that. Holy smokes. The finished edge on that swing is beautiful. Man, I hate to even put holes in this to mount them up. Those are sweet. Very nice. Those are going to look great as end plates on that wing. All right, I'm up above my garage in the storage area. I've got the new end plate. Just wanted to show you guys really what the difference is with the original end plate. So you can see it's about half the height. Visually, it'll look like the wing is sitting a little bit higher than it really is. So the pedestals are good 10-12 inches high anyway, and then with this shortened end plate, I think it will give the illusion of it sitting even a little higher. Anyway, pretty cool. Just a couple of holes that I'm going to have to drill in this very carefully, and that will mount right up. Collecting a little dust, waiting for the time to get this mounted, and we are not that far away. right, I just got this box from Drive Shaft Shop. Let's see what we got here. Basically for these CV axles, they're going to have to create an adapter for me. So on the outer side, on the wheel upright side, it's a 100 millimeter bolt circle with 8 mil bolts that go in, and they need to make it, I think it's 120 millimeter, convert it for a more robust set of axles. So here's the adapter plate. Looks like they also sent me two different lengths, 55 millimeter and 45 millimeter M8 cap head bolts to fit in there. And then here's the other adapter. So hopefully these adapters work and they fit on the car. Yeah, so this is 100 millimeter, so it'll adapt the 100 millimeter bolt circle that's on the car now to 108 millimeter, 8 millimeter bigger in diameter for the custom CV axles. And that'll allow them to build a much more robust axle itself and CV joint in there. So it should hold the power plus some. So anyways, let's get these on the car and see if they fit. All right, those adapters are in there. I don't know if I can get my camera down there good enough. But there's the adapter plate down there, and I noticed that there is super tight clearance between the adapter plate and the upright itself. You can kind of see right there, it's actually touching the aluminum upright. When you rotate the wheel to a certain point there, it's hung up right there, so it's binding up. The clearance is so tight. Looks like they need to machine off a fair bit of that, just a hair maybe, of the flange where it mounts to the upright, and then it will rotate freely. So a little bit of trial and error process. That plate is pretty darn close. Almost got it. So I took this adapter plate off, and you can see where it's just rubbing away the coating on the corner, right on this edge. That's where it's hitting the upright. I think I can just machine off a little bit, put a bevel there, and that'll do it. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'll just chuck it up in this baby and machine off just that flange. It's not gonna take a lot, so let's do that. All right, that did it. I machined off just enough where this now rotates freely. It's not binding up. It's not binding up on that adapter at all, which is good. So I'll do the other side, and then those plates will be done. Then I can call Drive Shaft Shop and tell them it worked, and they can finish getting those axles made. That'll be sweet. Then I can put power to the ground. All right, here is the first clue to my air intake setup. You can see I have a couple of paper templates that look like NACA ducts. So what I'm thinking of doing is actually cutting some holes here in the rear clam and installing a pair of NACA ducts. If you remember, I am already planning to cut out a slot here on this side and then mirror image on the other side to make room for the throttle bodies so that that clam will close all the way. So while I'm at it, I might as well cut a couple of additional holes for some NACA ducts. And in fact, I was looking at the RS model rear clam, and there are a pair of smaller NACA ducts right back here in the same area. So great minds think alike. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I've mocked up on the car these ducts, and they're right here. So I sourced a pair of carbon fiber NACA ducts. These are one piece from a company called Chill Out Systems. In fact, they have the logo on both sides. I already sanded it off one side, but I'm gonna sand it off on the other. You can see here, they just went a little overzealous on their branding. But I'm gonna sand this off, and then this is a matte finish. I might do a gloss in there. But you can see how that sits on the car. I've done a bunch of measurements, and the width that I have between these two is pretty much spot on to what's on the clam. And then as far as the height from the chassis to the top of the clam, I've got that measured out too, so that will work. So I think that's gonna be the ticket. That will draw cool air from the top side of the clam, more of a high pressure zone. And then for any water issues, what I'm thinking of doing is just putting a small hole with maybe a barb fitting, and then a little piece of hose that comes down and just drains out the bottom of the car. It doesn't have to be very big. A very, very small barb fitting would work, and it wouldn't disrupt or have any impact on airflow, but it would give water a place to go. Given that this is all angled downward, there's no water that would go up in, so this really is the lowest point on the intake track, and that I think would work well. So looks pretty badass sitting there like that. So what I'm thinking of doing to mount these to the rear clam is make the hole the size and shape of this inner shape in the clam itself, and then I'll use these flanges to bond it from the underside, and that I think will keep it very clean. Rather than having these flanges on the outside of the car, I think I want to have the flanges beneath or on the underside, and that will keep the installation very clean. I can use some panel bond and then fiberglass it in from the back if I wanted to for extra reinforcement, and then that will be part of the clam. One thing that I'll have to do away with are these silicone elbows. This is a 120-degree elbow. Given that the clam has to open and close, I need some flex in this area. So that flex ducting tubing I have, I think I'll just coil some around, and that will work as well. So yeah, I think that'll do it. I think that's gonna be the ticket for this intake track and solve my low pressure issue and or provide a nice spot for some high pressure cool air out the top side of the engine. Then what I'll do is wrap these components with some heat shielding, extra good heat shielding on both sides, and that'll hopefully keep everything cooler on the intake track. So that is my solution. Look forward to hearing what you guys think. The other quick update, again, a few comments mentioned about using some rubber isolators on some of these aluminum parts so that there's no risk of breakage under certain vibration frequencies or so forth. So in fact, I heeded everybody's advice once again, and I installed some rubber dampener washers. I picked these up from McMaster Car, and they're actually purpose-built. They're reinforced with fibers in layers of rubber. One on each side, that will work, so there is a little play. And I also did the same thing on these coolers. If you remember, many episodes ago, I installed these coolers, and a few folks mentioned I should do the same thing on this. So you're not gonna be able to see it, but down in the mounting locations, I sandwiched some rubber isolators in there. So there is just a little bit of give in there to isolate any vibrations, and I did the same thing on the passenger side cooler. So I still want to do the same. I'm gonna, when I take the coolant reservoir off one more time, I'm going to install some rubber isolator washers on the 4 mounting points there too. So because that is an aluminum cooler. I don't want those tabs breaking off. So I'll do that as well. And thanks for the advice, guys. Great advice. And that should do it. So I'm well underway with the wiring over here. You can see tons of bare wires in here. Let me show you what I've got. Down there, you can see where I'm gonna be putting all the electronics. So I have my Motec PDM installed there, and I have an electronic kill switch. Sometimes you see like the big red toggle switches. I decided to do an electronic one here, and what that will do is if I have to kill the engine, even with it while it's rolling down the road, you can kill it and it will in fact disable the PDM, and the PDM will not power electronics to the engine and the engine will die. So in case of emergencies or God forbid fire or anything like that, I'll mount a nice big red kill switch on the dash and that'll take care of that. So all the power, main power feed will go in the left post, and that comes directly from the battery, and then the right hand post will then feed, I've got a bus bar there where all my main power junctions will come in. I'm gonna make it so that from underneath, I'm gonna hang my looms underneath these bars, so that again, thinking about the future, if I ever have to rewire or tap into wires or something, I can crawl into the cockpit here underneath on my back and do some work if I need to, given that, again, once that top canopy, front canopy's on, there'll be no accessing this from the top side.